An intermediate court of appeals in the federal judiciary is called the Court of Appeals for the blank circuit. There are 13 of these circuits. As figure 3.1 indicates, 11 of these courts of appeal are numbered. For example, the First Circuit is in New England, the Seventh Circuit covers Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin, and the Ninth Circuit covers the West Coast, some of the mountain states, and Alaska and Hawaii. The District of Columbia constitutes its own circuit and also has its own district court. All the other circuits include several states. An unsuccessful litigant from the federal district court can take an appeal as a matter of right to the Court of Appeals. Those courts often sit in a panel of three judges, sometimes for a particularly significant case. All of the circuit judges will sit together to decide the case. In that case, the court is said to be sitting on banc or in bank, where more than one judge hears a case. The matter is decided by a majority vote. There is also a special intermediate appellate court in the federal system just for hearing matters regarding intellectual property. The United States Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. Congress established that court in 1982. This is the only U.S. Court of Appeals defined by its subject matter jurisdiction rather than by geography. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit assumed the jurisdiction of the U.S. Court of Customs and Patent Appeals and the appellate jurisdiction of the U.S. Court of Claims. There are 15 judges on the Federal Circuit. The Supreme Court of the United States is the highest court in the federal judiciary. That court has 9 members, consisting of the Chief Justice of the United States and 8 associate justices. All of the justices, rather than a panel, decide each case. The court begins its work on the first Monday in October and concludes its term sometime in June of the following year. The workload of the Supreme Court increased significantly until the 1980s. Since then, the number of opinions that the Supreme Court issues has declined significantly. Typically, the justices decide less than 10% of the cases submitted to them for review. There is lively dispute about whether this figure is too large or too small. In the recent past, some commentators have urged Congress to establish a national court of appeals between the courts of appeals and the Supreme Court. The argument is that this national court would handle the more routine appeals arisen from the 13 circuits. For example, those in which there is a split among the circuits, which means that some circuits say the law is one way and other circuits say the opposite. Proponents say this would free up the Supreme Court to devote more of its energies to truly important cases.